In just a short period of time, the world's leading state sponsor of terror will be on the cusp of acquiring the world's most dangerous weapons. Therefore, I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. We will not allow American cities to be threatened with destruction, and we will not allow a regime that chants death to America to gain access to the most deadly weapons on earth. Today's action sends a critical message. The United States no longer makes empty threats.
Instant reaction to President Trump's announcement in Iran, where President Hassan Rouhani came out near midnight to say he'll stick with the deal even without the U.S., but threatening what could happen if the now wounded agreement crumbles entirely. If Iranian benefits in the deal aren't provided, he said, Iran is ready to resume industrial nuclear activity.
This is CNN Breaking News.
We have breaking news coming into CNN. The Israeli military says Iranian forces on the Syrian side of the Golan Heights fired rockets at Israeli targets tonight.
Israeli rockets and bombs rained down on Syria overnight. Syrian state TV broadcast images of the assault. Israel's target, Iranian infrastructure and military advisors in Syria, there to prop up President Bashar al-Assad. Israel says the assault was a counterattack after Iran fired some 20 rockets at Israeli military sites in the Golan Heights, causing no injuries. The confrontation between Iran and Israel now threatening to expand. Israel's defense minister warned Iran any aggression will be met with overwhelming force. If we get rain, they will get a flood, he said. And adding fuel to the fire, a political challenge from the United States. Today, the sign came down from the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem. It will officially become the American embassy on Monday. Palestinians who clashed with Israeli security forces today said the symbolic U.S. embassy move kills any hope of Israeli-Palestinian peace.
Some 60 rockets were fired by Israeli jets at Iranian positions in Syria, with a further 10 missiles fired from the ground. It is the second such strike by Israel in as many days. Tel Aviv claims it was responding to 20 rockets launched by Iran from Syrian territory into the Golan Heights. The first rocket attack by the Israelis was launched right after Donald Trump announced his decision to withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal, which was reached back in 2015. In his latest statement, the US president blamed Iran for, quote, bedlam and death.
We'll see how we do with Iran. Probably we won't do very well with them, but that's okay too. They've got to understand life, because I don't think they do understand life. If you look at what's happening in the Middle East with Syria, with Yemen, with all of the places they're involved, it's bedlam and death, and we can't allow that to happen.
Defiance today in Iran as the U.S. reimposed some sanctions after President Trump walked away from the nuclear deal, burning American flags after Friday prayers, shouting death to America, and issuing a new threat that unspecified preparations have begun to restart Iran's nuclear program on an industrial scale if negotiators can't salvage the deal. It comes after a rare and dangerous military confrontation between Israel and Iran. And that isn't the only flashpoint. Jerusalem is now blanketed with posters thanking President Trump for his decision to move the U.S. embassy to the city on Monday. A controversial decision that drove Palestinians onto the streets. Palestinians say they will keep protesting right until and even after the U.S. moves its embassy to Jerusalem, and that they will never give up on their dream of having the holy city as their capital too.
Nothing in the earth can stop us from demanding freedom or oblige us to surrender to injustice.
But Israel so far has dismissed the protests as anger that will pass and says the embassy move will go forward no matter what. Richard Engel, NBC News in the West Bank.
عمالك يا فوزي عمالك يا فوزي The Middle East on the verge of a wider war. David Makovsky is a former journalist and is now the director of the Project on the Middle East Peace Process at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. He's in Tel Aviv tonight. And Mark Perry is a contributing editor to the American Conservative magazine. He's the author of Talking to Terrorists: Why America Must Engage with Its Enemies. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here tonight. Mark, let me start with you. We heard in the tape piece just before this, the Israelis are presenting this as a defensive measure. The Prime Minister says Iran crossed a red line by establishing military infrastructure in Syria. Is that the way you see it?
Not really. I think that this is a dangerous escalation. Israel had 27 F-16s in the air over Syria, hitting Iranian military targets. Mr. Netanyahu says it was a red line, but the Iranians have been in Syria for a long, long time and have had a relationship here. This is a dangerous escalation. It's hard to know where it will end. It's been quiet today, but there's no promise that it's going to remain quiet into tomorrow. I think Mr. Netanyahu owes the world an explanation of what he's doing and where it will lead.